Hello, whole healthers. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. Hey, everybody.
So, those of you who are tuning in, I'm Lucy,
And I'm Rachel.
and we are co owners of the Whole Health Project. We're business partners. For those people who, if this is their first time seeing us, then hi. We're both in Bali. We did used to live together, but now we're living in separate villas in different parts of Bali. And we're popping on here today because Rachel and I, as friends, as business partners, as two people in the wellness space, we have a lot of great conversations, wouldn't you say, Rach?
Yeah. Yeah.
We develop ourselves as we are taking our business to the next level. And we just wanted to share some of these because they are been really helpful for us. And I'm sure they'll be really helpful for a lot of wellness practitioners out there as well. We're all about communities. You get to know us, you'll know that we love bringing people together. We do it really well. And yeah, we just want to kind of invite you in some of our conversations. So today, what we want to talk about, and this is going to be like a dialogue between Rachel and me, um, as kind of a lot of our conversations are kind of just kind of hitting the ball around and exploring different concepts, is today we're going to talk about normalizing the idea or concept, or for lack of a better word, of an abundant wellness practitioner or wellness professional, more to the point. Someone who is in the wellness space, who is creating a career and a business for themselves. And something that we see a lot is that a lot of wellness practitioners and wellness professionals don't necessarily see a lot of wellness professionals who are doing it really well in the space of being abundant as well. There's kind of this sense that wellness professionals can only get so far. Rach, do you want
Mhm.
to just kick things off and just what's coming up for you in terms of, yeah, some of the stuff that you're going? We'll take it from there.
Yeah. I've been in this industry for 10 years, and I think Lucy pretty similar, maybe like a year behind me. Um, but we all start off in the kind of, the lower ranks. Like I started off as a yoga teacher, as Lucy did, and we're kind of doing stuff for free maybe, and then maybe doing stuff for like super cheap, and taking as many opportunities as we can, and like working, doing all the things, like taking all the jobs, like really wearing sort of so many hats. And when we're typically what happens is when we're starting up, like we're around other people that are also starting up, right? So the conversations that you have are quite limited, right? They're limited in their expansion, they're limited in that awareness and understanding of what's possible. And hopefully there's what we call like vinyasa krama in yoga, right? There is a wise progression from starting at the sort of the lower ranks, for want of a better expression, coming up to becoming more efficient in business, and recognizing that which is possible. And that's why we've kind of called this video like normalizing, right? Because in order to make something normal, you've got to surround yourself with people who are doing it in a way that's really normal, right? They're not like making it into this massive deal. And that's what Lucy and I have really worked pretty hard at, especially over the last couple of years, is normalizing wealth, is normalizing being abundant in our profession, is normalizing not working all the hours, is normalizing having a team, normalizing outsourcing, and normalizing having these conversations. And I remember, it's a story I tell a little bit because I think it's quite impactful. Is a couple of years ago I was kind of doing my like manifestation and my vision boarding and my kind of what do I want for the next like year or two. And I came to this realization. It wasn't a brand new realization, but it was the first time that I spoke it out publicly. Was that I really wanted to make some serious fucking money. And the amount that I came to at that time was $50,000 months. And I remember just being like, oh, wow, like, I know it's possible because I've always had the mentality that if you can imagine it, it's possible, but I don't see anybody in my sphere doing it. And I told one of my closest friends, and she was very supportive. And at the same time, she was like, but why do you need that kind of money? And I was like, well, because of this, this, and this. And I have reasons, not that you need to justify it to anybody, but it wasn't just a number I plucked out of the sky. It was like, because I want to build a house and I want to do this and I want to do that. But I just recognized that the point of this story is I recognized that I wasn't around anybody that was doing that. I wasn't having conversations with anybody in my sphere. Maybe there was investment bankers making that kind of money or people investing in crypto, but there wasn't anybody that I knew that I was having conversations with in the wellness space that was making that kind of money. So then I set out as my mission over like the last couple of years to make that my space, to have those conversations, to put myself in positions, in situations, in containers, in groups where that is a normal conversation. And now, full transparency, we're not yet making $50,000 months, but we will. But we are having conversations. We are hanging out in containers where consistent $20, $50, $100,000 months is normal. The conversations are normal. It's not like, oh my God, that's so wild. It's like, cool, that's epic. Well done, you. Sweet.
Yeah, I love that. It's so nice to look back over the last 2 years. I don't think either of us, in some ways, we knew we were going in this direction, but in other ways, if I look back and look back at myself 2 years ago, I would have just been so stoked that this is where I am 2 years ahead. The thing is coming up for me as well is there's a couple of things that I always think. One is that, Rachel and I do talk about this quite often, and I actually had a conversation with someone who's a family member of hers didn't think that psychotherapists should be charging anything because they're in service to other people. And I fundamentally don't agree with that. I know you don't, Rach. And it's this idea of energy flow, right, Rach? It's this idea that there has to be this exchange of energy flow in order for your cup to be filled up, whatever energy exchange that is, and money is an energy exchange. And what we're seeing now is the amount that you're charging is not anything to do with you and your service, but way more about how that person who you are charging is showing up for themselves. And so we have a few different offers at the Whole Health Project, and it is really interesting how different people show up in the different containers depending on the amount that they've invested in. But this idea of there being an energy exchange and it working both ways, it makes you realize how much in society we are conditioned to constantly be trying to go out there and get like the cheapest thing and to try and beat the system. And all this idea of like, oh, if I go here to this coffee shop, it's like 50 cents or pence or whatever cheaper. And that's such a blockage for our own flow of energy exchange, right? Like Rachel and I are constantly kind of, what I love about working with you, Rach, is that we have this great dialogue between us where we also remind each other of the teachings, of the embodiment that we are embodying. When we do see each other go back to old conditionings, it's great to have that mirror. And this energy exchange, what, Rachel and I were taught and then embodied for ourselves is the more energy you put out, as in like the more you spend, then the bigger door that's open for that money to come in. And I know that my story with money particularly was that I had this kind of like, I was living this, the teachings of abundance and energy flow and boundaries with everything in my life, not everything, but let's say like a bunch of stuff in my life and can see how it could relate, except for money, where I just had its own set of little rules. I realized I created this whole different set of rules that had nothing that was aligned with all the other teachings in my life. And I'd done a lot of work on relationships, on, boundaries, on, all the stuff. And then money was this just other set of rules. And I think as wellness practitioners, that's so normal, is that you see wellness practitioners and wellness professionals who are in such service for other people and are really changing people's lives with real, true wisdom, and still have this completely different set of rules when it comes to money. Which is this idea like, I can't really spend that much, or like, am I worth like it coming in? Like, who am I to be charging thousands of dollars for the transformations that I create? And what I think a world that Rachel and I would love to see is a world where wellness professionals are the ones that are getting paid the most, because they're the ones that are supporting society's health and well-being. Wouldn't you say, Rach?
Yeah, for sure. And teachers.
And teachers, yes. Well, supporting society, right? Is that I don't, and anyone who is moving to the wellness space, I know that you know how much this work is really impacting other people. And so why not be getting paid the same amount as investment bankers, or the same amount of property developers, or do both? I don't mind, but it's so funny that the people who are helping people's health, well-being, mental health are the ones who are, in general, not everyone, have this idea that they stay in like this bar of abundance. It's not the lowest, but definitely not thriving.
Yeah. And what's coming up for me as you talk about that is the need within ourselves to work on like our own mindset when it comes to money and wealth. Because if, again, like, it's all energy, everything is energy, and the world just reflects you, the universe reflects what's going on for you. And if you haven't resolved your stuff around money, like if you're still steeped in scarcity, in your conditioning that's been kind of handed down from your caregivers, your society, your culture, your education, whatever, that's going to get reflected in your clients. So you might consciously say, perhaps listening to this, or perhaps you've had other influences where people started to talk more about money and about wealth, and you're like, I can see that, I can start to understand this, I want this. Well, that's a conscious mind understanding. But often, we have to go a lot deeper. We have to go down to an identity level for this to really shift, because you can't just consciously design something and then it show up, right? Because if you unconsciously, from a conditioning level, from an identity level, have a different set of programming, then it's going to continue showing up that way in your life, and you'll just get really frustrated, because it's like, why isn't this working? Why are people not paying me? Why do people keep objecting to my prices? Like, why am I not making the money I want to make? It's like, well, it's probably because as an identity, you're still not identifying with being somebody who is worthy of having that money, of earning that kind of money, of having this kind of abundance in business. And one of the questions that I often ask myself, which I hear a lot of my kind of coaches and teachers talking about, is thinking about that person like Lucy was just talking about, hammering people down on prices and going like, where can you find the cheapest coffee? Where can you find the cheapest this? Oh, that's too expensive. Like, can you give me a discount? Da, 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 da. And it's the mentality behind that, right, is trying to save money, right? The mentality, the conscious mind is like, okay, I'm trying to save money so that, and saving money equates to like making more money, right? If I save money, I'm going to have more money. But think about the identity of the person that you're becoming. If you want to say, be someone that's earning, say, consistent $5,000 months or $10,000 months, look at the identity of that person. Are they somebody that spends half an hour trying to find the cheapest coffee, or expends like shit ton of their energy having like a massive big like disagreement with somebody, trying to get them down on price and expending that energy? Is that the identity? of somebody that is making $5,000 a month, is making $10,000 a month, and is very sure of themselves and is very confident in what they're doing and what they're offering. No, it's not, right? So you've really got to look at what are the behaviors that you're displaying around money and around your business, and how is that being mirrored back to you?
Yeah, and that's so good, isn't it? Because it's not just like, it's not like we've just had to work out how we can charge, like someone said, work out how you can charge more in a sales call. It's not just in the process of charging that needs the work. It's everywhere. It's when you're looking for a coffee. It's when you're buying, when you're buying something for yourself and you go for the slightly cheaper option, you make a story around like, well, it's not exactly what I want, but I'll be able to like at least save a bit there. And the word that's coming up for me is trust. Trusting that you will be safe. Because like this, I think, like as you said, Rach, underlying of like trying to save money in order to make money. And I think underlying that is, if I don't, I'm not going to be safe financially. And what's so funny is that wellness practitioners, wellness professionals, they know trust really well. Like some of the most, wise professionals, in whatever modality that they use, they're really good at trusting in a lot of ways. That if someone's come and they're like, hey, like, I've looked at what you offer, I actually feel at the moment what I need is this. And, it's quite often to hear wellness professionals be like, I totally trust that that person is on the right path for them. It doesn't, and that's coming from a really true place. And then at the same time, looking for the cheaper coffee because they're trying to save, because they're not trusting that they're safe. And oh my God, I mean, Rachel and I talk about this all the time. If you want to go through a personal development growth spurt, open up a business in the wellness space, because it just brings up, it asks you to look at absolutely every single part of how you're showing up in your life. And that has been an amazing journey for Rachel and me, wouldn't you say, Rach? Like those mirrors have just been like, oh, this is like with everything in life, this is not just this area of my life. This is a pattern that I am taking throughout my life. But it's just that it's showing up too much here in order for me to feel comfortable with staying like that. Because the thing that Rachel and I, the reason why we do what we do is we want to see more impactful and abundant and sustainable wellness professionals, right, Rach? Because the saddest thing is if people stay in this sense of like, oh shit, I don't know if I can make enough, or like, is it working if I don't make enough? And then they give up and they go back to their old job, or when they really could be, if their business is sustainable, they can be making bigger impacts around the world. And it is around the world now because the wonderful Zoom world opened up. And so you are doing a disservice to your people, the people that you can support and help, by staying small in the area of abundance, wouldn't you say, Rach?
Yeah, for sure. And I just love that, the kind of adage of, if the wealth of the world were in the hands of, the people who, I mean, I don't buy into this paradigm of like, good people and bad people, but let's say the people who have like cleared out their shit, it's really, that's ultimately it, right? It's like, if the wealth of the world were in the hands of the people that have done the work and cleared out their shit, i.e., the people on the spiritual path, the people in the wellness industry, then there would be so much more goodness in the world, because wealth doesn't make you a bad person. It just amplifies more of what you are and more of who you are. So if you are someone who has not done the work, if you are carrying a lot of trauma, if you're carrying a lot of unresolved conditioning, blah, 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 like that money is going to amplify that, right? It's going to make you more of that. But if you're someone who is on that path of like self-discovery and evolution and expansion, it's going to amplify that. And it amplifies it in very kind of tangible ways. Like, for example, like if you are working in the health and wellness industry, you can hire a team, right? Like Lucy and I now have a team, right? We have a team of 4 people that help us in our business. And what does that enable us to do? It enables us, well, firstly, it enables us to have more space. It enables us to work with more ease. It enables us to focus more on what we love doing and less on what we don't love doing, because we're able to delegate because we've got the team. Money buys us that. So then what does that do? That has a greater impact on the people that we're serving, because we're showing up in a way that is more aligned with ourselves. We're able to focus more on what we're really good at, which is teaching and coaching and creating content and being of service, rather than like doing all our Instagrams and, responding to, like loads of emails and questions and stuff, right? So we're able to do that. And then it also means that, we have the money to invest in ourselves, to invest in our own personal development, which not only serves ourselves, but also serves our students and our clients, because the more that we up level and expand, then that has that ripple effect with everybody else. So there are so many benefits of of being wealthy, right? And there's not that many benefits to being poor, right? Oftentimes a lot of religions talk about like being poor as being virtuous, but I don't know many poor people who can really who are poor enough to help the poorest person, right? Like, how can you be poor enough to help the poorest person, but you can be wealthy enough to help to help a lot of people? So it's stepping out of that old paradigm of like, being poor and being a martyr is so virtuous. It shows that you have non-attachment. Well, you have attachment to your identity as a freaking poor person and a martyr. So you're not moving away from this idea of like non-attachment. You are super attached to an identity. So if you're going to be attached to an identity, which we all are, because we all have identity, because that's what living in this human body does, choose an identity that works for you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing about choice.
Yeah. And works for other people as well. Like supports other people. I have a family member, a close family member, who has the story that people who are rich are greedy and not nice people. And so guess what? He doesn't have a lot of money. You never have a lot of money because he never wants to embody that identity of being greedy and bad. And because he's attached that to money, he's wondering why there's
no money.
No money. And it's just not true. Like, how money can literally not make you a bad person. As you said, Rach, it amplifies who you are because it gives you more spending power to spend in the areas that are rooted from your personality and your conditioning.
Yeah.
And
and
go for it.
Just remembering that like money is a neutral resource. It doesn't inherently have a meaning, right? We assign a meaning to everything. Okay. And when I say we, I mean individually, we all assign a meaning to something. And the classic example that I use often is a knife, right? A knife to a chef has a particular meaning because it's a tool of his trade. A knife to a sailor has a different meaning, right? Like I used to sail, and a knife had a very different a connotation, right? A knife to somebody that wants to go and murder somebody has another connotation, right? So there's not one meaning given to money, right? It didn't come into this physical 3D existence with a little rule book of like, these are the rules of money, these are the meanings, you can only have this or this meaning. Okay, like as humans with a thinking mind, we get to assign it. So this is the beautiful thing about being an adult, about adulting in this world, right, is that we now have a choice, right? Here's the thing, right? As soon as we become aware of something, right, become aware of, oh wow, hang on a minute, I think I've got a bit of a weird belief around money, and that came from my parents, oh shit, that came from my mom or my dad, right? You've now moved into a state of awareness. So now if you continue to choose, and then once we have awareness, it's in a matter of choice, right? You now are choosing, if you continue on with that belief, to hold that belief, right? Because you've become aware of it. When you're not aware of something, when it's unconscious, it's not about choice, it's an unconscious thing, okay? We're all programmed, we're all indoctrinated from a really young age. But as soon as you become aware, it's a matter of choice. So then again, beautiful thing about adulting is you have a choice. You can choose what meaning you assign to money. You can choose to assign that meaning of like money makes you a bad person. Or you can choose to assign a different meaning and be like, shit, this is awesome. This is so cool. Like you get to choose, right? You get to choose your identity.
Yes, I love these conversations. Uh, let's leave it there so we can let the people go on to their days and buy the coffees that they want to buy with all the extra stuff. um, and what's just coming up for me as we say goodbye is that if people are recognizing this as something that's an area that they want to shift and change, Rachel, I'd be interested to hear what you think. But I think one thing you can start doing now is just find people who are a good step. I don't like saying further ahead because there is no ahead, but like embodying what you want to embody, even if that feels scary and you're not sure how it works. Start having conversations with them. That doesn't have to be in person. It can be online. It can be listening to their videos. It can be signing up to their course, whoever this person is, or people, or whatever. And just start to hear more and more people and conversations from people who are doing the thing that you want to do. Because
Yeah.
then it stops becoming this thing, it's up here and unattainable. But it's like, it's just a thing that you can just do. You can do that. And yes, there are steps, and yes, you've got to put things in place and stuff, but the steps towards that is one step further away from your old identity.
Yeah, totally. I think
Yes.
that's an awesome recommendation.
Oh, well, look at that. That's why we're business partners. Okay, we'll say goodbye. And
Right.
thanks for the conversation, Rach. I loved it.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, and stay in touch, guys. Come into our Facebook group, the Whole Health Project on Facebook. That's a group. It's a group where we have more of these conversations. We bring people in from our courses. We have a lot of wellness practitioners and professionals in there, and we are just lifting. So yeah, add yourself to the group and follow us on Instagram, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.